Hello, and welcome to Mystic Visions. I'm Dr. Shiny. This is a daily pick a card reading for January 1st. Happy New Year! And the purpose of this reading is to give you a brief piece of advice or to help guide your overall focus for the day. If you are looking for a longer, more detailed reading, please check out my channel. And if you are new to pick a card readings, the way this works is that you will choose one of the three piles here and click on the timestamp in the description to skip ahead to the reading you've selected. So if you do feel compelled to choose more than one card, that is totally fine. Please follow your intuition here. There's likely to be some good advice in each reading, and one pile just may be a little more accurate than the others. So I've also added 3 crystals to aid in your selection, and today I have chosen all Herkimer diamonds. I want to bring some bright, shining, powerful energy into this reading. There is no chance this kitty leaves us alone long enough to be uninterrupted with this reading, but that's okay. So I am going to give you about 30 seconds of silence so you can meditate on your choice if you wish. And then when you have your choices in mind, go ahead and scroll down to the description, click on the timestamp for your choice. So let's begin the 30 seconds right now. Okay, so that does it for the 30 seconds. If you have not already done so, please go ahead and make your choice, as Mistress Cleo did. I don't know if you saw, but she chose all 3 today. So, let's go ahead and begin. Oh, so she says let's go for card number 1. Okay, for card number 1, we have the moon in the reverse, the tower in the reverse, and the 5 of coins. Okay, so the moon in the reverse, this is being a little bit resistant to the unknown. So it seems like on this day, you're thinking about the new year and everything, and you want things to go a little bit more predictably. You want things to be a little bit more normal. You've definitely had enough of this calamitous way that things have gone this past year, and that's very understandable. What you have challenging you or crossing you is a cat. is this tower card, and it's also in the reverse. So this is again. So the tower has a lot to do with failing institutions and things coming crashing down and everything. And again, in the reverse, there's a resistance to this. There is not wanting things to be calamitous, wanting things to be a little bit more normalized and all that. What happens though is a lot of times these institutions crumble because it's time for them to crumble. They don't have a sturdy foundation or something. So sort of recognize on this day, this first new day of the year, that a lot of that stuff actually was for the best in some type of way. Whether it enlightened people to some problem that's going on in the world. There's a lot of problems where people are failing to communicate, and we are starting to see that the world is sort of really living in isolation from one another, even though we're interacting, it seems, more than ever on things like Facebook and social media and all this. So a lot of these institutions have not really been serving us very well as a society, and I think there's a lot of knowledge that's come forth as a result of the way this year has gone, that some of these things need to kind of move on. They need to. You've got to detach yourself from these things because they are fundamentally hurting us a little bit more than they are helping us. And this is going to be true in your personal life a little bit more as well too. Whereas you may have been a little bit afraid of, having things be unpredictable or not wanting to to have the situation feel out of control or things like that. But you may have indeed found a little bit of release that came from some of these things passing away. So tap into that. And granted, this is a daily reading, but I find on readings like around major events and things, sometimes this can refer to your like overall mindset as you reflect on the year and that kind of thing. So advice card for you here is the Five of Coins. And so this is saying to remember that there is help available, to ask for help. So a lot of times this energy is like I'm helpless and I don't know what to do, and nobody's going to look out for me, and I'm just feeling destitute, maybe a little bit, unfortunate. But the real message here is in the glowing coins in the window behind these two figures. They are trekking through the snow. So there is some help available. There is definitely someone out there who's looking out for you, and don't be afraid to reach out to others and to let them know what's going on, and to be active in your own salvation a little bit. When you need something, make it a little easier for it to come to you by having a positive, optimistic attitude and wanting it, instead of letting your pride get in the way or anything like that. Okay, so that's it for card number 1. Okay, for card number 2, which is another Herkimer. They're all Herkimers today. My collection of Herkimers. Okay, you have this Page of Coins, the Three of Cups, and the Fool. So the Page here is in the reverse. So the Page, this could be, something is not quite worked out as far as like the material projects go, or trying to create your own new business or things like that. Pages can be, they're very more practical of the pages. Pages are usually like a childlike energy and that kind of thing, but the Page of Coins is probably the most practical and grounded of the children. So he wants to do something like, he's not too fantasizing about things. Like, when I was a kid, I used to fantasize about going into space. Like, I loved Star Wars and traveling the galaxy and things like that, and things that were very impossible and far off, at least at the time. But some kids are quite a bit more down to earth and practical and want things like, they want to, I don't know, be rich or be a fireman or, these types of things, which are quite a bit more practical. And in this case, there is a resistance to that type of more practical energy, or it just kind of hasn't worked out right. So, you may have put in like a valiant effort or something, and it just kind of hasn't gone your way so much, or you're feeling like there's a little bit of bad financial news. Perhaps you're waiting for something to come through and they really didn't help you out as much as you expected, or something like that, or possibly like some surprise bill came up and you weren't looking at that. So this may be just like really it's a minor financial setback with the Page. This is still a immature and minor energy. It's a court card, but it's the lowest court card. So there's a bigger picture here. This is just something a little bit minor here, this setback. So the crossing energy, or what's challenging you here, is this Three of Cups in the reverse. So this is, a little bit of a lack of fellowship, a lack of friendship, feeling possibly a little bit lonely or disconnected. Or on the other hand, it may be just like an introverted attitude where you don't really want to go hang out with people. But in one way or the other, there's a little bit of a lack of this sort of happy friendship energy going on that's crossing you. So either on the one hand, it could be, relating to that first card there, it could be that you don't have as much input and help from those around you to kind of make these things a little bit more successful. or it could just be that you are feeling a little, meh about how things have turned out, and it doesn't really inspire you to want to go out and celebrate your accomplishments or feel your abundance or anything like that. So these two cards work together in a couple different ways, but that's just some of them. And then your advice is this Fool card. So this is asking you to be a little bit more just open and free flowing with what goes on around you, to not care quite so much about the financial situation, but to have a little bit more faith that things are going to be okay. And really specifically in the context of, it's fine to care about finances and make good, prudent financial choices and things like that. But when you're doing that, there's an art to it where you can sort of detach yourself from the final outcome. So I always like quotes in these readings. One that comes to mind by Walt Disney is, "Why worry? Because if you've done everything that you can, there's nothing to worry about." And so that's the kind of energy that comes with this. But more generally, the Fool is just, he's kind of carrying on without a care in the world. Most of the time, the Fool is kind of about to come off of a cliff. And there's often, this dog in this case, but in some of the other artwork, it's something else, maybe even a hand or a wand that is coming out and preventing the Fool from falling over the cliff to his demise. And the idea here is that the universe tends to award this faithfulness with a sense of protection. So, in other words, tapping into this you might think of as foolish, right, or careless. But the universe actually seems to coalesce with this. There's a saying that fortune favors the brave, right? So, and it also is like when you watch children who are a little bit more carefree, they're not as careful, they're a little bit rash in their behavior sometimes. It's funny how they end up seeming a lot more resilient, and part of that is because they can heal faster than adults and they're still growing and everything. But even just what they go through, they're a lot more resilient to those things because they have that faith, and they don't let difficulties and hardships kind of knock them down so hard mentally. So this is kind of what you're trying to go for here. Bad things sometimes happen, but you sort of roll with it and you allow it to pass and wait for the good things to come, and just have that solid faith. So that's about it for card number 2. So let's do card number 3. So, 2 of Cups, 3 of Swords, and the World in the reverse. Okay. 2 of Cups is a balanced and harmonious relationship. So this one is usually pretty strongly associated with, like a relationship with another person. 2 is a strong indicator that this indicates somebody else as well as you. But it doesn't always. Sometimes this can indicate that 2 forces within yourself are working really well together. So, the shape in the back here, there's these 2 snakes that go up this staff, the staff of Hermes, or I forget what you call it, Caduceus or something like that. I don't remember how to pronounce it. But anyway, there's the 2 snakes that go up the side of that spine there. And this actually is a representation of the nervous system in humans. You have 2 simultaneous nervous systems, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. One of them is kind of more the fight or flight response, where you get tense and it's time to get into survival mode. And then the other one is to kind of relax you and calm you down. And these 2 things, when one of them is activated, it suppresses the other one. So these 2 are constantly at a sort of tug of war with each other in each of us. So a good harmony utilizes both of these energies or feelings to a positive direction. So if you just had that parasympathetic calming action all the time, it would probably be a pretty boring life. I would think, it's kind of like a turtle energy where there's not really much going on and it's just pretty much monotone. So you need that more excitable system to get you through some adventures and things like that get your heart pounding. And that part of that is the sympathetic nervous system. So this, again, kind of has that energy of a really idealized partnership, because when you've met somebody who, is really compatible with you, who it's a really good relationship, there's always this effect of being nervous, but like in a good way. So you're at once, you're feeling a little bit at peace, but a little bit on edge at the same time. But in a context of just within yourself, this is about finding the balance of, not getting too worked up and crazy about things, but also not being, apathetic or cynical. There's a balance of attachment and non-attachment that has to be sort of walked, a line to be walked, a tightrope type situation. Okay, so the crossing energy is this Three of Swords. This is some heartbreak. This is some difficulty that's happened probably recently, something that you're feeling a little bit today, or just thinking about in the past recently, something that's been lost or something that you cared about that no longer is an option. There's also a more, this often points to a pretty strong heartbreak of some kind, but in a more general sense, this is the feeling that comes with whenever you make a decision in life, you're leaving behind some other roads, some other journeys that could have been experienced. And when you have to make a choice, you're going to have to also leave something else behind. So that's the more general energy of this card, but often it shows up when you're feeling a particular kind of heartbreak or possibly regret, So advice for you here is the World in the reverse. This is the completion of a cycle. And that's pretty appropriate for this day, but it's not the end. It's just sort of the starting over of something new. It's sort of the last card in the major arcana, but really just starts the whole thing over, starts the whole process over. And there tends to be some sort of a realization at the end of this that there's no real end point in this thing called life. There's no destination you're trying to get to. The point of it is just to do it, right? And in the reverse here, you're like almost there, but something is like not quite finished. You feel a little bit of a lack of closure or something. So there's just a piece of the puzzle left that needs to be kind of put into place. And, in this little figure here, she is holding two of these wands, and it's ironically the same, or I don't know about ironically, but interestingly, the same wand that the magician is holding up in the first deck, or in the first card, other than the Fool, of course, which is the 0. So the idea here is she has completely manifested the imagination of what it was that the magician put into place and evoked in the beginning of the journey here, and she has completed that manifestation, and now it is time to move on to a new vision for the future, or a new lesson to be learned, and in that reverse, it's just there's something in this process that is just not quite finished. You're almost there, but it's like some unfinished business, right? Some tied ends, or some untied ends that need to be tied up. Okay, so that's about it for today's reading. Thank you for watching, and please leave me some comments and let me know what you thought about the reading, and if it resonated. And I will see you guys tomorrow for your next daily reading. Thank you for watching Mystic Visions.